Here. So, as I said in the first Steven Universe recap of the Into Deep special that's going on, that this past week's episode, which was Same Old World, that I unfortunately wasn't able to make a reaction video. Well, it's almost a week later, because I was at ACEN, Anime Central, one of the biggest anime conventions in the U.S. But I just got to see the video, so I did want to go back and make a video for it anyways, and maybe just talk about a couple things that I had viewed. But yeah, so this episode starts shortly after episode 2. We don't know how much time. It could have been a day, it could have been a couple hours. But Peridot's explained to the group, the gems, everything that happened while they were drilling down with trying to stop the cluster. She's getting all excited into the story, having a good time. You can definitely tell at this point that she's fully embraced being part of the gems. If you didn't get that before, you definitely get that now. I think Peridot is definitely one of my favorite gems at this point. I just love how crazy she is. But she then is like, oh hey, Steven, why don't you say you're part of the story as well? And he's lost in thought, and he goes off to the barn where Lapis is still passed out, unconscious, whatever you want to call it. He's worried about her. Garnet comes and is like, yeah, after everything she went through, that emotional and physical strain of keeping Jasper fused and contained, just it would take a lot out of someone, and she can't even imagine what kind of strength and abuse and everything that she went through, and that just recovery is going to take quite a while for that to happen. So later that night, Steven hears Lapis waking up during the middle of the night. She's about to run off. Steven's like, hey, you're awake, stay please. And she's like, I can't stay here. Home's not, Earth is not home. I can't go back to the gem world. I don't know where to go, but I need to find my own place. So Steven, is like, okay, I understand, goodbye. She flies off. So the next morning rolls around. Steven's dad and all the gems are all packed up, ready to head home in the van. Steven, first of all, Peridot, actually decides that she wants to stay and live on the farm. Well, obviously, they invite her to go back to, home. She's like, no, I like living here. I don't want to live in the bathroom again. I've seen what goes on there. A little, funny thing goes on with Steven's face being embarrassed. But she wants to live at the farm. She wants to fix, actually, the big old hole that she made from her robot during that one episode where her and Pearl were kind of battling it out with the robots. Which was a nice kind of throwback to when that happened. But yeah, so, they're like, okay, you can live here, that's fine, that's cool. And Steven's like, no, Dad, the van's gonna be full, I'll come back on Lion, whatever, I'll catch up with you guys. So he goes, Steven walks around, looking for Lion. He finds Lapis on top of one of the corn silos, and he goes up there and talks to her, and is like, hey, I thought you were gonna leave, and she's like, I didn't really go far, I just don't know where to go, I don't have a place anywhere. And Steven's like, sure you do, you don't have to stay exactly here, there's plenty of places on Earth you can go to. And then they kind of go on a flying adventure. Lapis puts Steven on her back and they go flying around Earth, kind of in the vicinity of where Beach City is, which apparently there's a lot of water and ocean themed cities and towns, and I don't know if they're just doing that for fun or what, but yeah, so Steven's like, oh yeah, I got GPS, so they go flying around, and he's explaining Earth to Lapis a little bit, and they find a couple cities. He's like, oh, you could live here, and then he does, his Steven thing where he's like, oh, you could live in this big city, and you can go and you can buy your coffees, and you can live with a roommate, and he's telling his imaginary stories, trying to help her find her place in the world, and blah blah blah, and that goes on for a little bit, and then they find one of the giant warp pads that finds out it's the exact one that Lapis was abandoned at. And Steven, asks her what her story is, and you find out that thousands of years ago, she went and visited Earth, and she got caught up in the battle between Gem Homeworld and Earth with the crystal gems, and at one point she got hurt and reverted back to her gem self, and Homeworld, finding her gem, thinking that she was a crystal gem, which I'll get back to that, by the way, they then put her in the mirror, and they then interrogate her through the mirror, tell us where the rebels are at, blah, 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 and, they interrogate her for who knows how long, until they eventually lose interest. At some point, her gem cracks, and she's just left there until eventually Pearl finds, they show that Pearl finds her as the mirror, and that's about all we've seen of that. But yeah, so, that kind of ends there. Then they fly back towards the farm, and Steven convinces her to stay. She's like, okay, stay. And you get him to stay here. And Lapis is like, well, I'll stay here at the farm. And then she finds out that Peridot's there. And it's kind of because at this point she has no idea that Peridot is there and has changed sides. And she's kind of like, what the heck are you doing here? Because, the last time she saw Peridot was when Peridot forced her to come back with Jasper. And then that whole thing happened at, the end of season 2, I don't remember at this point, but, when that whole battle happened between Jasper and Garnet and all that good stuff. But yeah, so hilarity ensues. Oh, you said I could live here, and then Peridot's like, no, I live here, and and then, end credits. So yeah, so we finally got the backstory on Lapis. It's kind of sad. It was short. It was kind of sad. You can tell she's in such emotional pain. I'm sure there's physical pain, but there's a lot of emotional pain there. Because she's still, dealing with everything that's going on. She hasn't had time like the others to figure out who she is and what she wants to do with herself. But it's at least known that she and Steven get along together. I think their friendship between those two is very, very strong. She definitely, well, she won't. I don't want to spoil anything for the next episodes, but her and Steven's relationship is definitely very strong. I think out of anyone, she definitely trusts him definitely the most, and is willing to at least listen to what he has to say. And that's just because of the nature of Steven. But yeah, I wanted to get back to it, the war. So while they didn't say, it was, at least for me, it was kind of implied that there may have been more crystal gems than the group as we know it. So I think as time goes on, we'll find out that Rose actually had a full-on army and a ton more gems, and that just over time they died or went away or something happened to them, leaving only the group as we know, with Amethyst, Garnet, and Pearl, and of course now Peridot, but with the original group. So that's really interesting to think about, of all the other possible gems that may have been part of the group. I really hope that ends up being true, because you would have to think that Rose would have to have a pretty big army to go against Homeworld, other than just, being the 4 of them. Because, strength lies in numbers as well, so she would have to have a pretty large group of other gems. But, again, we don't know, but we'll find out, hopefully. I hope this is true. I definitely want more crystal gems, but I definitely hope this is a start to Lapis finally joining the group, and the possibilities of what can happen with that. But that's it for this episode. Definitely check us out for future episodes of of my recap for Steven Universe of the Into Deep. So yeah, the next episode is episode 4, Barnmates. So we will find out what's going on with that when it happens. But if you enjoyed this review and recap and some little theories, please like, comment, subscribe. Check us out on all of our social media pages. And once again, please join us at thefanriot.com for other geek news, reviews, podcasts, contests, and giveaways. Catch you guys next time.